All right, so picture this. A world where tech just blends right into our lives. Where the digital and the real world are practically the same thing. That's kind of the crazy potential of 6G, right? And that's where we're going to dig into today.
Sounds intense.
Oh, it is. We've been checking out this episode of the Tech Talk Nexus podcast, the one that's all about like the very latest tech trends. And they, let's just say they painted a pretty wild picture of what a 6G future could look like.
It's definitely got people talking.
Yeah.
I mean, we're still trying to get our heads around 5G, and here comes 6G promising to be even bigger.
Exactly. And we keep hearing about crazy download speeds and stuff, but the thing is, our source material really emphasized that 6G is way more than just that.
Definitely. Yeah, 100 Gbps download speeds are pretty mind-blowing on their own. I mean, imagine downloading like your entire music library in a second. But the really revolutionary part is how 6G will actually change the entire experience of like how we interact with the digital world.
Okay, so break that down for us. What does that actually look like in practice, this whole new experience thing?
It's like this. 6G isn't just about accessing stuff faster.
Yeah.
Right? It's almost like it's getting rid of the lines between what's physical and what's digital. We're talking about real-time, like virtual reality type stuff, but so immersive and so immediate that you can't even tell what's real and what's not.
They had some really cool examples in the podcast about how this could change things, particularly in stuff like healthcare and education.
Oh, yeah. Imagine a surgeon, right, doing surgery, but remotely, with no lag at all, controlling instruments from miles away. Or students attending a lecture at some top university on the other side of the world, but feeling like they're actually in the classroom.
And it's not just attending, right? It's about really interacting, being a part of these virtual spaces.
Exactly, and that's where the whole real-time thing with 6G is so huge. Think about it. Right now, we're used to delays, those tiny pauses when you click a link and wait for it to load, or that little lag on video calls. But with 6G, all that goes away, like gone. And it creates this totally smooth, seamless connection between what we want to do online and it actually happening.
So just to be clear, this isn't just faster YouTube videos, right? It's a whole different way of thinking about how we experience information, how we connect with each other, even how we perceive the world.
Exactly. We're going from just looking at data on a screen to actually existing within data, this constant flow of information and experiences.
This whole idea of like the real and digital worlds blending together, it makes you think about how it could change things beyond just like communication and entertainment, Our source material talked about what it could mean for artificial intelligence, and it seems like 6G could be huge for that.
Totally. They talked a lot about how much data 6G networks can handle. They actually called it a data deluge, which is a pretty intense way to put it.
So we're talking about way more data than we can even imagine now, right? And all of that data being generated and analyzed incredibly fast. What does that mean for AI then?
Think of it this way. AI learns from data, right? The more data you feed it, the better it gets at spotting patterns and making connections. With 6G, the amount of data we're talking about is just insane, and it can be processed insanely fast too. That means AI will be able to learn and change so much faster, becoming like smarter and more capable in real time.
Okay, so AI is getting a massive boost from this whole data explosion thing. What are some real-world examples of what this could look like, this super advanced 6G-powered AI?
Imagine, like, your devices know what you need before you even ask, or your environment adapts to you in real time. Think personalized recommendations, but on a whole other level. Like your AI assistant reminds you to get groceries because it knows your fridge is empty and then suggests recipes based on what's on sale at your local store, stuff like that.
I can see how that level of like interconnectedness could be really convenient and personalized, but it also makes you wonder about privacy and all that data being collected.
Right. And our source material definitely brought that up as a concern.
Yeah.
Actually, they spent a lot of time talking about the challenges of this technology. For one thing, just building the infrastructure for 6G is a huge task. We're talking about a complete overhaul of current networks, which will take a ton of money and global cooperation.
And then there's the whole issue of regulations. New tech always means new rules, and with something as potentially disruptive as 6G, governments will need to figure out clear guidelines for things like data privacy, security, and ethical use. It's not hard to imagine how complicated things could get if they don't address those issues carefully.
Exactly. And maybe the most important thing is that everyone needs to work together on this. 6G can't just be controlled by one country. If we want it to work seamlessly everywhere, we need global standards for things like how frequencies are used, how networks talk to each other, and how data is managed.
It's definitely a lot to think about all of this, and it makes you wonder, If 6G really does blur the lines between real life and the digital world like that, what does it even mean to experience something real anymore? That's something that really stuck with me from our source material.
Yeah, that's a huge question, and it's only going to get bigger as 6G develops.
For sure. This isn't just about the tech itself, right? It's about how this technology changes how we see the world, how we connect with each other, even how we understand what's real and what's not. It's kind of a big deal.
Yeah. Absolutely. And our source material mentioned some of the major players in 6G development. Companies like Huawei, Ericsson, Nokia. The decisions they make, along with governments and regulators, those are going to shape what the 6G world looks like.
It feels like we're on the edge of something amazing, but also maybe a little bit scary. This tech has the power to change everything, and it's up to all of us to make sure it's used for good.
That's the key, right?
Yeah,
The huge opportunity. But we got to be smart about it and think about the consequences.
for sure. Well, this has been a really fascinating deep dive into 6G. Honestly, I'm both excited and a little unsure about what the future holds. How about you? What's your main takeaway from all this?
If I had to pick one word, it would be potential. 6G has the potential to change so many things about our lives for the better, to connect us in ways we can't even imagine yet. But with that comes a huge responsibility to make sure it's used ethically and for the benefit of everyone.
Well said. This is something we all need to keep thinking about, and I hope our listeners will too. We've just scratched the surface of 6G and what it could mean, so keep learning, keep asking questions, and let's work together to shape this technology. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of 6G.